Yeah. I mean, the first thing we learned about you, Colby, is that you reviewed local McDonald's, and you should just run a blog. So even if it's not recorded here, we have some database of your reviews. You should get that going. Anyway, so thanks for joining. Yeah, thanks for being here. Colby here joined us today from all the way from Osaka from his bathtub. So awesome to have you here.
Thanks,
And yeah,
Scott.
it's it's great to have Colby here because he's one of the earliest successful fellows from this program and has been doing a lot of interesting things in Ethereum since then. So yeah, thank you so much for being here again, and I hope you guys prepared some interesting questions for him. But after our warm up with the fast food questions, I would ask you something more on the topic to get started. Tell us about your initial experience, how you got to the CDAP originally, what you did before, and how was the experience starting with Ethereum for you?
Yeah, for sure. So, like, when I was like younger, I always wanted to like make money, and it's like I did a lot of door-to-door salesman type stuff when I was younger, whether that was like in Boy Scouts doing bottle drives, selling popcorn, mowing lawns, shoveling snow, and do that. I'm like, I don't want to do this my whole life. I really loved my. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
you're
can hear you all
perfect.
good.
Just
Yep.
my yeah.
Oh,
Just
okay,
my
for sure.
bandwidth
So,
is slower.
uh, I really loved computers from a fairly young age. My first computer was like a Blueberry, like basically like an iMac Blueberry, like the CRT with like the translucent back. So when I was around 10, I kind of triangulated in my mind that I wanted to do something with computer science. I was getting pretty tired of like mowing lawns, so I started just Googling online every day, like how can I make money online? And through that, I was able to figure out that there was this thing called crypto. Since I was like fairly young, I gravitated towards more so like smaller cap coins. And then through that, I was basically just like telling them about like joining these small like Slack servers, being like, yo, I'm interested in this. And then through that, I was able to make like $5 mining in like my school's computer lab, selling that on like local Bitcoins and like other exchanges at the time, which you could use, and then wasting my money on eBay. But other than that, through that, I was able to just work my way through shitcoins. Eventually, I got a job making like $10 USD an hour. That was a lot better than working like manual labor at like Canadian Tire, which is like kind of like this store in Canada which sells like tools and like outdoor gear. Uh, and also trees during the summer, which like sucks. But and then eventually, after I worked for $10 an hour, I worked there for like a year, and I was like, pay me more money because I learned a lot more. This guy was like, you'll never make more than $10 an hour. And I'm like, okay, goodbye. I jumped around a bit. I eventually worked for someone who was paying me like $50 USD to work for him. I hated working for him though because the rate he was like, super unstable, and also like the work was kind of boring as well. But one of the cool things I got to do while working for him was basically implementing Bitcoin's peer-to-peer stack, because for some reason he wanted to like make a Twitter clone over like Bitcoin's peer-to-peer stack, and some other guys started it. So I basically implemented it in Dart because I was like, I don't want to implement this 5 times. And the guy I was contracting for also sent me a link to CDApp. And at the time, I didn't really think I was going to go for it because I'm like, I'm stupid. Ethereum's like super cool. It's super big. I've only been in like smaller things. But then one day I went to school and I was sitting right next to this guy named Derek, which was in the last cohort of the EPF, and he was basically like telling me in social class, like, "Yo, man, I'm applying to an internship at our local university," and I was like, "Fuck you." I'm applying to this opportunity I've heard of called CDAP, which is now the fellowship. I wrote like a one-page letter, and I somehow got accepted through that. Originally, at the time, it was being run by someone named Piper Miriam, and I guess he was also switching from working from like leading the Python team to working on basically a peer-to-peer network, which basically parallels all of Ethereum's block history and state across like many different nodes, and that you could traverse the network and recreate any JSON RPC query that you could get from an execution full node or the JSON, or like Infura using like their public JSON RPC. So something like that. Uh, And then I guess that's kind of how I got into CDAP. I did that for the summer. At the end of that summer, I was graduating high school. I was like, fuck this shit. I'm going to party. Uh, I joined a frat for a term in university. In Canada, they're a lot more lax than the States. But after a month of doing that, I basically got like extremely bored with partying because I was drinking 2 times a week. And I was like, I'm doing nothing with my life. Every time I went drinking, I started just like pacing around because I was like so bored. And I eventually just quit that winter term. And then my second year of university, I just took like a ton of heavy courses. And then by the end of that year, I was like, I really enjoyed what I did in CDAP. I was kind of embarrassed at the time because I was like, the work I did was garbage. But I started contributing again to the project I worked on in the past, and I tried to contribute as much as I could. I was lucky that the merge just happened, so the EF was running like a protocol summer grant. So Piper, who ran CDAP, but was also running the team I was contributing to 2 years ago, he's like, if you want, the EF is basically letting EFers give out money. I was like, awesome. I'd love to not be homeless. I grinded the summer on like building basically like interop tests because there's going to be multiple implementations of this like peer-to-peer network uh, distributed storage solution. And then at the end of the summer, I was like, please give me a job. And then I got a job at the EF, which was super cool. I worked there for 2 years, and then priorities changed, but also 6 months before, I also started looking into something called the Beam chain, now called the Lean chain. And the idea of this was like, okay, we're kind of on the cusp of like quantum computers. If we want to take security seriously, we should probably do this. But since we're reaching this quantum state, we could probably jump ahead of like the current like consensus chain in the same way that like we jump to proof of stake. What if we jump to this basically like optimal quantum solution? And I thought that was really interesting during DevCon last year, and I just told Justin Drake that I would like to start a team called Ream, and I guess I've been contributing to a team called Ream for almost a year now.
Yeah.
So I think that's short.
Yeah, that was all of the history, Kolby. Thank you so much. You, I think I never got such an answer to this question, going all the way back to your first summer jobs to the current part of the Ethereum. That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. And I think it's very inspiring, like from shoveling snow and Canadian Tire all the way to Ream. That's very cool. Yeah. Okay. So, like maybe to elaborate more on your current work, like how do you feel like also switching from Portal to Ream? Like how do you feel that the work changed? Like How do you see the future of the protocol? Like, what motivates you? What do you find interesting about a current job, and how do you find it different to working on Portal? Like, how was it like for you to switch like this now?
Portal, especially when I joined, was a somewhat of a very early like R&D project where it was like we're not really sure if this was possible. There was a lot of confusion on like how you should bootstrap a project like this, and there was different levels of basically uh like different people had different ideas of what stages of the project was really on. So when I originally like started like heavily contributing to Portal 2 years ago, I'd say it was like fairly cloudy. And then like as I joined like over the last 2 years, I think things got a lot clearer. Uh, and through that, I was able to learn a lot. I think this time with something like the lean chain, being ran by like a ton of people at the EF, but also like other teams. For example, I'm contributing to a team called Ream with like quite a few other members. But there's also a team called Zeem, which is being spearheaded by Gajender and also Gnome, which Gajender was like a big player on Ethereum JS before that team was cut. But he also started contributing to Zeem like at DevCon last year. And then Gnome leads the stateless team. So I think like with like the EF support, and I think like with all the experience on like on like the few starter teams, I think the whole like lean movement has been going a lot faster, but also like on a way better track, which I'm super bullish on, and I'm extremely excited for. So I think like overall, like going from Portal to lean, I think like I grew a lot at my time on Portal, but like I feel like it's just a lot better space, and there's like a lot more experience going into this, which is really helping things go forward.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Kolby. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I have to say I very much respect. I find it also like very inspiring and helpful for people here. Like the sort of open mind, adaptability that you have, just like being able to work on. Also, like I mean, you started the portal, which was the research prototyping, and Beam at the time was the same thing, and you were able to just jump into both. So that's something that's really great in the ever-changing protocol. I think it's a good lesson for the fellows here. And yeah, I mean uh, the lean right now is also sort of very much in progress, and a lot of we have a bunch of people here contributing to some of the clients, also to Ream. Folks, let me open it to the audience as well. It's been 20 minutes already. Do you have any questions before we continue? Please feel free to raise your hand. We don't have any in GitHub, I think. Let me check. Um, I'm going to give opportunity to the audience here. Um, Also wanted to invite you to ask about Ream or Lean and Rust and Portal, all kinds of stuff Colby is experienced in. Okay, so what I'm curious. Okay, Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm also interested in Lean consensus protocol. It looks like the pillar of the Lean is like more. It involves like cryptographic form verification and P2P network, but I only know some parts of them. Would you like to discuss more, like the what's the progress now and what's a biggest challenge now? Because I noticed like in crypto part there is like research on where GKR and all this stuff, something like that. It sounds very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess overall there's kind of like a distribution of work. So on client teams, we're mostly interested on like uh, building the clients themselves, taking primitives such as like SSC, libp2p, and making something that works. If you're interested in cryptography, that's mostly being handled by researchers at the EF. So I think if you are, I believe there's in the EF Discord, I believe there's like a lean crypto channel. And if you ask a question there, I think one of the researchers who are like building the basically like the reference libraries that the clients are going to use, I believe it started with like eight, wait, E4844s. Like the researchers at the EF would implement a library, a cryptographic library, then clients would use it. A similar model is going to be used on Lean for, I believe, most, if not all, like cryptographic libraries and functions.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, we had some discussion before with researchers there, and I also joined like ZK Proofs meeting, and I'm wondering like from the client side, from the development side, what's the progress now, and also actually I don't know because it looks like quite a new thing for me until so far.
Yeah, so from our side, it's mostly just using the libraries offered from like the EF research team, but also like integrating that, giving feedback whenever there's like rough edges in using it. In terms of like actually getting something tested, uh, the t- the DevNet Zero is planning to be done in October 5th to 7th. And I'm sure there's going to be quite a few blog posts posted by various teams then. And then there's also going we're targeting basically around like November or DevConnect for our DevNet V1.
Okay, thank you. We have another question, Dmitris.
Yeah, hi Kolby. Thanks for this. I was wondering, like, I don't know, like the whole roadmap, but to the thing that I'm concerned, for example, my question is the following: like, so many zk VMs are created by companies which is not like EF, so they provide the environment and then we can run RIM inside and this kind of stuff. But they seem to be at the very first steps of their progress, and I haven't seen any of them like meet the criteria, for example, that Justin has set. Is it possible that miscommunication with them or something like that delays the whole roadmap and things get out of hand because the roadmap is like 5 years long? About Lean, I'm talking.
I think the roadmap is optimistic, but I believe that wherever I think a certain thing with any five 5 year or 4 year term project is you never know where it's going to head, and if expectations do change, there's likely to be like I would say is somewhat unclear. It's like, are we going to have a fork to Lean, or like how is this integration or transition going to look? Happens, we'll probably be shipping something that conforms to. So one of the reasons why we're having like rapid DevNets is so we can give feedback to the researchers on where things are actually at and what we can actually ship. So I think with these DevNets, uh, hopefully you guys can still hear me. With these DevNets, we should be able to give the researchers better and quicker feedback to be able to iterate faster. And through that, we should have like answers of if something would be blocking us quicker. And it shouldn't really block us because we should already be aware of the current circumstances.
Yeah, thanks. And one more specific question about like some resources or references about Rust. So I'm quite new to it. I know the official book and all that, and I'm learning a lot from the code of others. But if you can share any other resources or ideas or like specific things which are necessary, for example, in RIM or like this kind of development, I would be very happy to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. I'll link the lean Ethereum repo in the Discord server. Here, which so in the lean Ethereum GitHub organization, we basically have like the lean specs, our project management repo, where like meeting notes and agenda items are displayed. So if you want to read into like Ream's code base and the specs for what we're implementing, reading the github.com/lean Ethereum/lean spec would be a great place to start. Or reading like researchers' blogs. I know some people at Ream make blog posts, and I'm sure if you ask in the Zeem Telegram, if you don't have that, you could always DM me. I'm sure they make blog posts as well, which you can keep up with each individual team.
Thank you, guys. Awesome. Yeah, do we have some more questions? Please keep it coming. Yeah, good discussion. I didn't have any in the issue, but please ask live and chat with Kolby.
So you
Yeah.
mentioned that you think the lean roadmap is ambitious. What do you think is a realistic timeline for the implementation and change over to this new system?
I think 4 to 5 years is a realistic timeline. Mostly what I mean by ambitious is oftentimes when you're building something in a 4 or 5 year timescale, it's really hard to predict the final outcome. I'm sure we're going to have a post-quantum solution in 4 or 5 years, but will we reach all our goals? Will we need to make certain trade-offs to make it possible? Something basically along those lines. So I think like I think being very like aspirational and aiming for something high is really important. If you want to basically build a team behind any movement or build anything great, uh, will we meet all our goals? Well, maybe we might succeed certain goals majorly, and maybe we might need to do certain trade-offs in certain places. And there's always unknowns. For example, early on in like Lean's like research and development, the choice was done to go with like hash-based cryptography, but there was always an option to go with lattice-based cryptography. But I'm not sure if you guys have like seen posts recently, but there's been a few discussions that there's possible attacks against lattice-based cryptography, where there's great confidence in hash-based cryptography because we've been using it for decades. So I think if we made a choice in the wrong direction, and there could have been like I guess attacks against a choice we made that could set us back potentially. And I think an example of this today is Poseidon 2. To my knowledge, Justin Drake has been running like a bunch of contests through, I think it is like ETH proofs or like the ETH proofs direction on like, is Poseidon a trustworthy cryptography? algorithm, and I guess we'll see with time. But if it is, I think that will accelerate our progress. But if it's found in like 3 years, it isn't, that could greatly delay us. So, ambitious is a project being ambitious is almost like a moving target of sorts, where it's like you don't know what will hit you off course or will boost you in that time frame, which could greatly change your scope.
I think I can add something about the tech on the lattice. It's not only on the lattice; it's on the learning with arrow. So also, FHE will be highly suspicious now for most fast or efficient schemes now. Uh, it's also not only the discussion. I mean, they released some papers, like a draft of the papers on archive now. If you are interested, you can take a look. And the author, I think from I know the author, like he's also a Chinese, so it looks like an amazing attack. So, but I'm not sure what's going on now. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting crypto news. Thank you, guys. Feel free to keep raising your hands if you have any thoughts, questions. Okay, Shane, go ahead.
Yeah, once Lean's all set and we want to implement on the different CL clients, do you think it'll be more of like a huge fork that each like basically a new branch that like all the teams will build on, or do you think they'll have to like rewrite each client from scratch? Curious.
I think it mostly depends like how clients were built. If I know, like coming from more of a Rust background, normally we build things in crates. So our code base is quite modular, and I think like something like Lighthouse should be able to adopt something like this fairly easily. The idea of Lean would be we take existing resources that we do have stable. So, for example, the P2P stack most clients have, I believe they should be able to reuse most of the code with minor changes or improvements in various places. So I don't think Lean in its current state would be a heavy lift. It's more so it's like, what primitives are you using for private keys? What primitives are you using for XYZ? And I think overall, I don't think it will be that hard of a lift. I think most of the complexity comes around like implementing good peer-to-peer code, which hopefully we can reuse a lot of that. But also since the current idea is using some with like 3SF, in the bad case of that, where it's like you have like a forking network, being able to recover a network like that is extremely hard. And I think that's the hardest part of building a client. Any team can throw together a prototype in probably a week, but can they have a client what's resistant against an actual attack on the network? It can actually recover from bad situations. I think those are like the actual challenges of building a client, which even a lot of the clients today are struggling with. And that's not to blame them, it's just an extremely hard problem. And with things like privacy or security, it's often hard to conceptualize putting effort into something unless it's like urgently in your way. And unfor- and unfortunately, it's like having a hard problem, but the hard problem is also like a very rare case. Uh, it just creates, I guess, really the worst cases are extremely bad. So hopefully over the next 5 years, clients just get like better and better like reorg logic and recovering from that. And I think in that case, we'll have even better clients when Lean comes. and the actual differences added from lean, I don't think will make that. I don't think they comprise the important parts of an actual like consensus client, if that makes sense. Or it doesn't compose the complex parts, which like help you sleep at night. I think that's a good way to put it.
And yeah, you can imagine the clients would be in a much different world in 5 years. Hard to even predict.
I hope.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Kolby. Keep it coming if there are more questions. I'm also curious about the lean chain. Specifically, like, how do you see, we already discussed it a bit, like the roadmap and the future. Like, what I'm curious about, because during beacon chain development, sort of a mistake I felt that we did was like, I want to say, starting to sort of like a lot of prototyping that happened, a lot of initial development was kind of wasted. Like Prism started implementing beacon chain like 2018, 19, and the specs changed a lot during the time. So the initial code, also it was like became more of a spaghetti, right? Like just rewriting a lot of stuff, and a lot of the initial work was wasted. And now we have so many clients on Lean that are started re-implementing beacon chain stuff basically, and without the proper spec. So like, how do we mitigate this now? Like how do we manage the prototyping now so that we don't waste work, so that we work efficiently? Yeah. Did we learn from the experience?
I think, yeah, I think the whole concept of wasting work might be a misnomer. As in, like, if everybody knew exactly what was going to be the final outcome, I think that that would be a very unrealistic world. So I think overall, I think a lot of the experiences learned aren't wasted. I think a lot of people on the pre-existing Beacon teams are still there. I think we do have some of that experience through people like Gajender, who worked on Ethereum JS, but also on Lodestar. And I do think we also get assistance from well, a lot of beacon teams are focused on the beacon chain and not so much the lean chain currently. They do often provide feedback when needed, and I think that expertise of critical people really comes into hand. I don't think like I don't think most of the work, for example, like Prism did, was necessarily wasted. I think a lot of lessons were learned at the time. I'm sure a lot of the lessons learned will be like forgotten to a degree. But I hope through mechanisms, for example, like the protocol guild, uh, experiences like that are retained. And I think only by people like working in the past bringing that up would be able to resolve a situation like that. But I think like if code is rewritten, I think it will mostly be fine. Uh, I'm not sure so much about other languages, but especially in our case in Rust, I don't think like if we had to rewrite any code, it would really be in vain, unless it was the P2P code. But at the same time, I think like the P2P code is like fairly stable. And at this point, since we have like a lot of like actual tooling built up, like SSE, libp2p, I think like the actual code being like that would need to be rewritten wouldn't be for waste. Like one thing that might be rewritten is like uh, certain cryptography libraries. But in for my current understanding, I don't see how like yeah, I honestly see like the complexities of like building a good client. I think that is like where all the value is. So if we need to rewrite something in specs this time, I don't think it would be as painful as like changing the specs for like P2P, which would be the most painful thing on earth to redo. But since that is like actually stable, I think like we are carrying forward the valuable things that was learned from during the beacon chain. So I think we're good in that regard.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really great to hear. Thank you so much, Colby. Yeah, yeah, and I hope the lit peer-to-peer doesn't change. Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, please keep asking as well. Use the opportunity to chat about the Lean or Ream or Rust or Portal. Maybe we didn't have much Portal discussion, and I have some questions, but want to give you a chance first.
So we've. I didn't raise my hand, but can I go ahead?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Uh, you've worked across a lot of teams over the past couple of years. You yourself are building a team for the Lean chain, for the Ream client. So I have two questions. What do you think makes a great team? Given our ecosystem, it may be different for different ecosystems. What do you think makes a great team in this ecosystem, and what do you look for in an individual contributor for them to be like perfect for what's an ideal individual contributor?
I think that's a good question. I think like if you're in the EPF and you made it here, you probably have like a lot of those values already, or if you've read through the EPF documentation. But I think overall, like one of the great values for like someone in the Ethereum ecosystem is if they're like independently driven, especially when it's like oftentimes on teams there'll be like many people working on very distinct things. Being able to figure out what you're going to work on and the actual priorities, I think is really important. Being able to speak up when you think things aren't going in the right direction, I think something like that can save a lot of time. I think communicational skills are really important. Of course, being in like software and like computer science backgrounds, which I'm sure most of us are, I know we're not known for communication as much as something like business majors, but the value of communication is extremely high. And let's see. Someone I would want to work with me on a team would basically be like they're very motivated for like the actual problems we're solving. Because working on a team with like if you're working on a team and the people you're working with would don't want to be there, that's not a fun situation for anyone. Uh, Not needing to micromanage people, but for the people you're working with to basically be like solving problems without you needing to ask. I think that really multiplies effort in a really great way. If you need to ask questions, that's not a problem, but it's like, of course, you should have done some research on your own and kind of like understand the space a bit. Because once you like, of course, when you're initially learning a code base, that could be quite challenging. You might need to do smaller issues and work your way up. But once you understand the scope of a code base, you should be able to like navigate that correctly. Learning skills like that is often not taught in something like university. It's often something learned in doing like either contributing to an open source project or building your own project where you're always like iterating, trying to make a better product. Uh, a good example of this could often be a website, but in other cases I've seen, uh, it could be any project you're interested in making better, whether that's optimizing something for more users, increasing the UX of a product. And then the other thing I think is like the vibe a team has. I think like one thing is it's like the people around you liking you, but also you liking them. having people you'd want to work with, want to talk to, want to show up to. I think that's extremely important on any team, or just like innate kind of to human nature. And I think I answered the second question, but what was the first question again?
Give me 1 second. Yeah. So the first question was, what do you think makes a great team in this ecosystem? Like, what's a good client team? I mean, I guess
Yeah.
it could be a set of individual contributors, as you mentioned. But if you have any, yeah, if you have any insight on that.
Yeah. I think it would basically just be a set of contributors who are highly independent. They're self-motivated. When they see a problem, they'll basically like bring it up. They'll organize groups of people from other groups to basically be able to solve those problems. Uh, and yeah, I think that's what an ideal team is. And yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you guys. Any more thoughts, questions? Those are good questions. Nice reflection, Colby. Paul has a question.
Hi, Kobe. My question was just to get a little bit more perspective on your experience with your work with Trin and everything, and why that ultimately didn't pan out, and any lessons you think you guys will be able to take from that for Lean, and also just like more perspective on what happened, because I feel like I was following it a decent amount, and then everything just seemed to disappear overnight.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it to a certain extent, it's accountability with the team itself and the leadership around that. But it's also changing visions in terms of the EF's leadership and what the future of Ethereum should be. When I joined the Ethereum Foundation, basically it was like almost a completely flat structure where there was like a bunch of teams and then there was leadership on top. And then like a while later, it's like teams were bunched into four groups. And then before I got laid off, the EF became a lot more hierarchical. And uh, from what I heard, one of the reasons for that is it's having a more accountable structure. I think partially on the team I worked on, uh, there was some accountability, but it was also like in social situations, it can sometimes be hard to like bring problems to light, especially depending on like who's boss. Uh, and talking to other team members, it can sometimes be hard to like keep people accountable depending on like where you are in the hierarchy. Uh, and I think that happened a few times. So I think we did miss. I definitely think we did miss like deadlines of where like Portal should have been. Uh, and yeah, I think better managing like priorities, but also like making sure like if somebody's working on something important and it's been like X amount of time, making sure to like check on that important thing instead of just being like, hey, that person's got it. If it's been like 6 months, you should probably check in on them on where the progress is, but also identifying like what is important in a project. One thing about Portal was the scope was very like vast in that it's like I guess you had the base layer, which was the history network. Then you had the beacon network, which would be able to prove the history network. And then you had this like massive scope of the state network, where it was like we had like before the project was shut down, we had proving up to like 8,000 blocks before the head. But I think we should have probably had that done a year before. And if there was just like better communication on what was happening with like the beacon network, for example. I think we definitely could have got that proving done earlier. And then it's like, well, if we get the history network up, I think that would give a lot better feedback from users quicker. So I think overall, a lesson that could be learned is you should focus on getting a product out that works as soon as you possibly can. You shouldn't try to build the full scope of a project, but like an important part that works, like probably the stack up. I think like having like the full history up and just like focusing on that as fast as possible, getting that user feedback would be great. I think another struggle with Portal specifically was uh, like changing beliefs of what Ethereum should be over time. Portal was a very like uh, decentralized, I would say like cyberpunkish kind of vision where it was like, okay, nobody's running full nodes because running full nodes suck. What if we took out all the hard work of running a full node so people could have this like experience of using Infura? It would be slower because of course it's slower. You're not talking to a centralized server. And then it's like, could this slowness be justified? And I think a mix of like it being an ideological project, leadership changing in the vision, accountability problems on the team. I think if we like shipped a minimal product quicker, I think we'd be in a very different world. Like if we made many different decisions, but of course, like over 1 year, 2 years, X amount of years of the project, various levels of like decisions were made. So it's really hard to be like, oh, that one decision, if we change that, that would have changed everything. Uh, so I think if I could go back, it would be on like even if it's awkward situation, even if you're like good friends with someone, it's like being accountable as a team. I think it's like it's not just responsible to the team, but it's respectful to everybody on the team because if people are going to be spending years of their life working on X project, being accountable will save everybody time. And like calling stuff out, I think is like insanely important just because it's like, I know I didn't call a lot of stuff out. I know talking to team members, like they noticed stuff they didn't call out. And it's like if you've been working with people for years, it's like it feels awkward to be accountable, but I think accountability is so important, especially if you believe in a project and want it to ship. So I'm hopeful with the EF's new structure, even though it's more horizontal, which is like less like flat and like cyberpunkish. Hopefully more things are shipped and the different vision of Ethereum, which is like different when I joined the EF, but like the vision now, I hope that at least they ship faster and like whatever they believe is right for the protocol get shipped. I think that's extremely important. So yeah, I think with like leadership, of course, it's like a hard decision to like cut teams, but I definitely think like I have great respect for the leaders who did that because it's like to a certain extent, it's like what can you really do? And I think with like how long Portal was being developed for, let's see, because prototypes, like when I got into Portal, originally it was 2021. Prototypes were being done in Python for, I don't know, a year or two before that. So what this project was being funded for at least 4 or like 5 or 6 years. And for it to not have like anything in production yet, that's I think that's a major problem in itself, and no matter what caused that problem, uh, that's a that's clearly a big problem, and I'd say that's kind of why the project was cut. Um, and hopefully in the future, ZK solves all the problems in the world, and we can have a cyberpunk future. Uh, but one can only hope. So I don't think that was a perfect answer because, of course, it's like a very complex space, and it's like so many things went into how things turned out that it's like you can't just say this one thing did it, even though that's super, like, that's the easiest thing in the world to do. And of course, it kind of hurts my soul, but I'm also kind of jaded, so I never work on a protocol like that again. Unless, of course, there was tons of ZK magic involved, because then that'd make everything easy. But hopefully that answered a little bit. But of course, using all the lessons I learned in any team in the future, I'd want to apply that to have a more successful team. Because of course, like nobody feels good when like a project was cut and a lot of resources were put into it. I don't think leadership felt good with like having a ton of budget. Like that budget could be so productive, right? So for like Portal received a decent amount of budget, and yeah.
Thanks for the answer.
Yeah.
All made sense there.
Yeah, awesome. It's tough reflection and a lot of lessons learned there from Portal. Um, and like, I think it's a sort of a pattern in Ethereum, like working on a research for many years and like having a hard time, getting it into production. With like also EOF, it has different history, different problems, of course, but it's not really unique. I think people need to be ready for also like this sort of disappointment if they want to stack in the ecosystem. But a lot of important lessons. Yeah, thank you so much, Kolby. Makes me a bit sad now reflecting on everything. Like I was honestly hoping that there will be something we can salvage from the portal, and the current chaos about what to do about history expiry can be somehow helped. But yeah, yeah, cool. So we have lost the last few minutes. So before we finish, I will just ask you one more quick thing. What is your advice for the fellows here? You have your experience starting youngst, going through all the processes in the core development. So, what is some advice that stuck to you, or something that you wish you knew when you were starting? How to survive in the core development? Yeah, do you have any thoughts, any advice?
Yeah, I would say believe in yourself more than anything. Just because it's like if you don't believe in yourself, nobody will. If you don't think you can do something or understand something, that's like the silliest thing you can think. Because it's not a matter of if you can do something, you can. It's a matter of how much time it will take you to achieve, and it might take you like like 10 years to achieve, and maybe you should pivot. But I don't really think there's something as hardness, more so of just how much time it will take for you to achieve. Like everything is easy, but everything takes a different amount of time to achieve. And when you go through life, sometimes like things will become easier to achieve, and maybe it makes sense then. Maybe you should pace your goals out so like they're somewhat achievable, and then you like kind of level up in skill. If you want to work on a team, you should contribute to a team. You should make an impact. If you want to join a team, your goal should be like performing as well as like the best guy on their team. Like that should be our goal of work. Like if you want a job somewhere, you should try to create as much value as you can. You should be creating as much value as somebody being paid to work on that project. And then if you ever want something, ask, because if you don't ask, people don't know how to help you. So it's better to ask and get told no than never ask, because if you're just doing something and you don't ask, like people don't know what you're thinking. If you don't ask, you might never get what you want. But if you ask, you're gonna get more stuff in your life. You're gonna live a way better life if you always ask what you want than if you don't ask. So I say if you guys ever want something, just ask. The worst thing you get is no and some advice, but getting no and some advice is gonna save you a lot of time. And if you ask, you might just get it. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Colby. I think that's really nice. Yeah, a lot of confidence boost there. Yeah, and it's something that I also struggle with, like sort of an imposter syndrome and like not being able to ask. That's great. Thanks so much, Kolby. I think people really loved it. You get a lot of clapping here, and it's also like right at the time to wrap up the call. So I think it was a perfect way to finish. Thank you so much again, Kolby. Thanks for joining us today. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting
Very
me.
well.
Have a good one, guys.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and yeah, enjoy the rest of Japan. Hope to see you at another of these meetings. Bye bye. Bye everyone. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.